Hello, my name is Michael Tellinger. I'm the founder of the Ubuntu Liberation Movement, the philosophy of contributionism, and the one small town can change the world strategy. Today is the 22nd of April 2020, and there could not be a more appropriate time than to bring this message to you and the billions of people around the world. This is something that's evolved over a 15-year period or since 2005, but never has there been such a time like right now when the entire world is under stress and under duress, and not just millions but billions of people everywhere are locked down. Many people are hungry, many people are scared and fearful of the future, wondering how they're going to survive when we come out of this lockdown. So welcome to what I call the quintessential presentation of One Small Town Can Change the World. I've done this presentation hundreds of times around the world since 2005. So there are many versions of this presentation on the internet, on YouTube. Many people have put their own videos out when they've come to my presentations and shared that in their own right. But I'd like to bring this all together and make this the quintessential and the primary presentation of One Small Town Can Change the World that everybody gets pointed to. So if you know somebody, if you meet somebody, if you want to share this information with somebody, point them to this presentation, and from now on this will be the one that I'll keep adding to, keep growing, and this will remain the primary One Small Town presentation. So let's get the show on the road. This presentation has two parts. First one is the background and the philosophy, and then secondly the implementation. So let's cover some of the background. The most important thing you should do if you're new to the Ubuntu movement is read the Ubuntu Contributionism book. And the reason I say this is because this book contains a lot of fundamental, foundational information about the origins of money, the origins of the royal bloodlines, the origins of banking, and how money and banking has been used to corrupt society, to control humanity for thousands and thousands of years. It also goes into many information that many people don't have about how new knowledge, new science, new technology, and new cures for all kinds of disease have been suppressed. Information that many people do not have. And it's really this foundational knowledge that brought together the One Small Town strategy. It's because without that foundational knowledge and information, the One Small Town strategy would not have evolved. We would not have stumbled upon it and put it together over a 15-year period. What the One Small Town presentation is really all about is a roadmap and a simple plan of action, how to get us from here to there, how to get us from this crazy world, this insane world that we find ourselves in where nothing makes sense anymore, to over there, a new world, a world that most of us have dreamt of, have imagined, but very few of us can imagine how to get from here to there. So, what is here and what is there? Here is a world filled with violence, conflict, misery, hunger, separation, greed, envy, sadness, war, a congenitive dissonance for what is going on around us. It's almost as if we suffer from a Stockholm syndrome where all of humanity have fallen in love with our captors. We keep making excuses for those that have enslaved us, whether it's our government, whether it's the banking institutions, whether it's the royal bloodlines. We are suffering as humanity from some sort of a congenitive dissonance disorder, where we're making excuses when we should be asking questions from our authorities and our leaders why they are not doing what we want them to do. Keep in mind that our authorities have been appointed to be our servants, not to be our slave masters, to tell us what to do, to restrict our rights and restrict our liberties. So that is there, that is here. That's where we are right now. There is that beautiful world, that utopian world, that paradise that most of us have imagined at some stage of our lives. A utopian world that everything is possible. Everything is achievable, fixable, healable, growable, doable, reachable, inventable, creatable. A utopian world. And I use this word utopian very specifically and very strategically because utopian is not a bad word. It's a beautiful word. It's a world that we all would want to live in. But Society, in some twisted way, has turned the word utopian into a bad word, into a word that we imagine that we'll never achieve. Well, let's manifest our own reality right now. Let's make this utopian word and utopian world a reality for everyone. So we're going to leave here and we're going to go over there. And that's what One Small Town is all about. It's a roadmap and a very simple few steps that we need to take to get from here to there. Now the question is, why One Small Town? Where does it come from? How did it evolve? Why do we talk about it? And for those that have not taken this walk with me since 2005, those of you that are new to this, this has been a journey of discovery and an unbelievable journey of joy and discovering things that very few of us knew. It's taken 15 years from 2005 till today to really figure this out. It's not something that happened last week or last month or last year. It's been a true journey of blood, sweat and tears and many sacrifices, but not just by me, but thousands of people that on many occasions have walked the talk with me in the elections, during the political campaigns that we've gone through, learning what not to do, petitioning the banks, petitioning the government, delivering letters and marching against the banks and marching against governments. We've done many things since 2005, all the way, every step of the way, learning what not to do. And that's really been our greatest teacher, what not to do. That is what's led to the philosophy of One Small Town Can Change the World. Because it was really in 2015 and early 2016, after participating in the elections in South Africa for the second time, we realized that that is taking on a strategy of opposition and conflict, and that is an old paradigm kind of thinking. So One Small Town Can Change the World takes on a whole new kind of thinking and provides steps and solutions that very few of us could have imagined, and shows how simple it can be for us to get from here to there. It is a fully inclusive system. It includes and invites everybody. It never ever excludes anyone, no matter who you are, what social standing you're from, whether you're rich or you're poor, what religion you are, what color you are. It does not discriminate or exclude anyone. It is also a system that I call a self-correcting system. No matter what problem you throw into the One Small Town situation, you will find a solution. Because the solutions don't come from me or from you or from an individual. The solutions come from within the community. The next question we have to ask is, are we happy with the way the world is going? And the answer is a resounding no. Very few people are happy with what's going on in the world. Very few people are happy with their lives. Very few people are happy with what the governments are doing. So the question remains, what are we going to do about it? Well, there are many people, millions of people around the world that are pointing out the problems. All you got to do is go onto YouTube and you find thousands and thousands, if not millions of websites, millions of YouTube clips and videos showing the problems, highlighting the conspiracy theories, the bankers, the royal bloodlines, the pedophilia, all the stuff that's going on around us, pointing out the problems, showing out the ugly side of our society. So it's become so overwhelming that in many ways it's causing some sort of a depression and a state of helplessness among many people. And many people, once they start watching this horrific truth, this horrible truth that's facing us every day, many people believe that we can't get out of this. Most people can't imagine how we're going to get out of that system. And this is where I really want you to put on a very happy and a smiling disposition and realize that we have a solution. One Small Town has the solution for this. For any imaginable problem that you can throw into the pot, One Small Town has a solution for that. And while so many people are presenting the problems in our society, there are very few people that actually present a viable solution. One Small Town and the Ubuntu movement presents such a viable solution. I say this with the greatest respect to thousands of people and many movements and societies and groups that are sharing amazing success and their efforts to solve certain problems in our society, whether it's working on disease and hunger or economy or pollution or saving the forests or saving the bees, saving the whales, saving the dolphins. There are many, many groups and societies and movements that are focusing and finding solutions and helping to alleviate problems in many sectors of our lives. But very few, if any, of these movements have a solution, a holistic solution, where all of these are accounted for, or all of these are provided for. And that's what One Small Town does. It provides a solution for every single one of these. What are our objectives? Our objectives are actually very simple. To create a new system that benefits everyone, freedom from economic slavery because we're sick and tired of living like slaves, wondering how we're going to survive week to week, month to month, freedom from draconian laws imposed on us by our governments, with elected leaders that work for the people. We actually want our leaders to do what we want, not what they want, right? We want to live in fully self-sustained communities where we have full control of our own destiny, not constantly being told what we can and cannot do as a community or as a society. Freedom to express our skills and our natural talents. Everyone can be the best they can be. And everyone is honored and respected for their talents and contributions to their community. That's the kind of world that we want to create. So we want to create a new system. But why do we want to create a new system? Because our system is broken. Clearly it doesn't work. Our system cannot be fixed. And the problem has been for thousands of years, especially the last few hundred years, with this resistance and opposing authority and wars and conflict. It's a constant attempt at trying to fix the existing system. Well, if the existing system is fundamentally rotten at the core, rotten from its foundations up, we can't fix it. We have to create a new system. And that is really a very important decision and realization that many people have to reach. Only when you've reached this realization, you'll be prepared then to let go of what we have here and create something new. And because we cannot fix the system and we have to find a new system, we have to figure out, well, how are we going to do this? How do we create a new system? We can't do it with violence, opposition, and conflict, because that clearly hasn't worked in the past. So we need to come up with something new. How do we create a new system without violence, opposition, and conflict? We do that by creating a new system that is so attractive to everyone that it makes the existing system obsolete. And here, the brilliant work of Buckminster Fuller supports this ideology and this philosophy. Buckminster Fuller says very, very clearly that you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, you build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're creating a new system through contributionism by using the One Small Town approach, a new system that is going to be so attractive to everybody because it doesn't exclude anybody. It welcomes everyone, including investors and the capitalists. Yes, even those. It is so attractive that before we realize and we start moving into this new system that One Small Town is the vehicle for, we suddenly realize that we've left behind the old system. And suddenly we won't even recognize that old system because we'll be so completely engrossed and participating in this new social structure of ours. So the most liberating thought that I probably ever had is when, after 12 years of resistance, opposition, and fighting the existing system, fighting the banks, fighting the governments, fighting the justice system, the courts, and so forth, I realized that if we just stop doing that, and we use the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation, everything will work out just perfectly. It was the most liberating thought that I ever had, using the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation. And that's exactly what the One Small Town model does. Without any violence, opposition, or conflict, we use the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation. What are the tools of enslavement? All the things that are used against us. First of all, money. Money is the number one tool of enslavement. It controls everything. It is an absolute tool of control that runs our lives and runs the entire planet, our economies, our governments, all the corporations and everything. It is the ether that controls everything. So we use money. That's the number one tool of enslavement. We use greed, human greed, because of money, because of capitalism. We use the business structure itself, the structures that are being created to use money to enslave humanity, the corporate structure, the business structure, investors themselves, whether they're conscious investors or greedy investors, we use them to actually lay the foundation for a one small town that will change the world. We use profits, the greed and the drive for profits, and we use politics without actually having to get involved in politics. This is unquestionably the most brilliant, twisted, poetic justice that could have ever been bestowed upon humanity, using the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation. What I need to point out here as well, very, very strongly, is that we are not creating communities or intentional communities without any money or without using money. For some reason, this is a misconception and a misinterpretation of many people that find the Ubuntu movement online. They watch a video or two and they jump to the wrong conclusions. We are not creating intentional communities without trying to use money, or intentional communities that do not use money. That is a nonsensical idea. That is impossible. That has been the problem with resistance and opposition and fighting the current system. That can never happen because money is a tool that destroys everything that tries to oppose it. And anyone that's ever tried to do that will know that it's not going to work. So we're not creating communities without using money, or intentional communities in which money is not used. We're doing exactly the opposite. A one small town strategy is based on highly strategic projects, highly strategic businesses that are co-owned by the community and the investors that make it possible. Meticulously planned and meticulously implemented, better than the average business that is planned and implemented, managed by experts. And when I say experts, I mean the best possible experts in that specific industry or field that we can find, for the highest possible financial return and profits. So can you see how completely juxtaposed that is to the notion or the idea of us building intentional communities or creating intentional communities without any money or in which money is not used? No, we're not doing that. We're using the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation. And you'll see how this beautifully flows from the system that we're in into creating a whole new social structure that most people cannot imagine right now. But we cannot doing by just stopping this and trying to create something else that has never worked and it never will work. It needs to be a gradual transition, and that's exactly what One Small Town provides us with. One Small Town is a solution. It's a solution to all the problems that we've ever faced. Without any violence, opposition, or conflict, most people cannot imagine this kind of situation. I couldn't imagine it until I spent 12 years with the Ubuntu movement and contributionism philosophies, when suddenly that penny dropped for me. So it is a solution for every imaginable problem. And as I mentioned before, for all those people that are trying to solve hunger and shelter and health and orphans and whales and bees, everything that every human alive wants to do to benefit society and benefit humanity has a solution within the One Small Town model. And by the end of this presentation, you should be fully cognizant of how easily this is achievable and how we can do this in our lifetime, right now, not somewhere in the distant future. So at this point, I'd like you to write down 3 problems. 3 insurmountable problems that you think cannot be solved in this kind of model. Especially if you're new to this, sit down, pause this video and write down 3 problems that you think you can't figure out how we can solve them. Because by the end of this, I would like you to go and solve those problems that you write down. I don't want to help you with it. I would like you to think about it once you have the full knowledge of how we're going to do this, how those problems that in your mind are insurmountable will be solved. What I will do, however, at the end of this video, I will go and do a separate section of videos where I will answer all the questions, all the frequently asked questions, one by one, to alleviate any fears and put everybody's mind at ease to show you how simple these answers really are. So, why one small town? Why not cities? And why not intentional communities? Well, first of all, cities are too big. Cities of 500,000 people or more, or even 250,000, whatever, they're just too big. They're too many people. It's not controllable. It's not a situation in which you can implement community-driven structures that can be managed and controlled in a way that will benefit the community and in which the entire community can participate. So cities are something that we'll get to later. A small town is the tool and the social structure system that works best for this, because that's where we reach most of the people. Most of the people of the world that live in small towns have very integrated communities. Everybody knows everybody. It's much easier to get things started or spread the message or share knowledge and information in small towns. It is a far more cohesive community than the large cities. And secondly, why not intentional communities? Because intentional communities are nightmares. For anyone that's been involved in intentional communities will know that most intentional communities fail. There are a few existing examples in the world, and even those are not successes. They are failures. If they were successful, they would have already influenced and inspired the rest of the world to live the way that they've tried to set up. One small town does exactly the opposite. Why should we go out and set up new communities and intentional communities and build houses and roads and plumbing and electricity and then all the infrastructure when we already have towns where small towns exist? They have everything in place. We have houses and warehouses and farms and roads, and all the infrastructure is there. All we need to do is change the way the people think, change the way people interact, and change the way the people see their future and start working together. That is why we choose a small town as opposed to a city, and we are not building intentional communities. So let's get to the implementation. How do we get from here to there? What do we do? Unfortunately, most of us are so traumatized by the current system that we can't imagine getting from here to there in an easy, seamless, orderly way. And yet that's exactly what one small town presents. First thing we need to do is we need to find a mayor. Find a mayor of a small town that wants to do this. A mayor that is sick and tired of struggling to keep the town going, struggling with all the insurmountable problems that face the mayors of small towns. And it's generally the small towns that suffer the most. And this is why the small town strategy is most likely the best strategy to take. So the mayor will be the voice and the face of the One Small Town strategy. The mayor will do regular videos and PR with progress on what they've done, what they're doing, what projects they're initiating, and so forth. The next question is, what size town do we engage? And this is really important because the town can't be too small. If the town is too small, then there are not enough people to participate in the projects. It's not lucrative enough for the investors to get involved in. So the standard model has been for many years now a town of minimum of 5,000 people. But it's probably going to be slightly larger than that. And again, it's also because of the kind of energy device that we're going to put into that town, the electricity supply, that needs to be big enough to become the unification tool that drives the town. So between 5,000 and 10,000 people has been the standard model, but it can be bigger than that. It can be a town of 100,000 people or 200,000 people. My gut feel says that anything bigger than that is going to start becoming problematic and becoming too clumsy to manage. So anything between 5,000 and 100,000 people is most likely the right size of town. Now, keep in mind that the foundation of this One Small Town strategy is the supply of electricity, our own supply of electricity. It becomes the tool of unity. Until now, electricity has been the tool that controls and divides people. And this is why we use electricity as the tool of unification for the small town strategy, but also the foundation upon which all the businesses and the projects get launched. Without the electricity, it becomes very, very difficult to implement the One Small Town strategy. Electricity is also one of the cornerstones of our enslavement and the cornerstones of control. Money, energy, pharmaceutics, and media. Those are the fundamental cornerstones of all our control. The money controls everything. The energy is the next thing that pretty much permeates every sector of our society. You cannot do anything without electricity. Think about this. You can't run your home. You can't run refrigerations. You can't run your car without petroleum. You can't do anything. And keep in mind that energy is not just electricity. Energy is petroleum, electricity, and all the other forms of energy that control our lives. We are going to take electricity as the foundation of a one small town so that we can do anything and everything within our small town. Now, we already have this technology. We have brand new leading edge technology that the world has not seen. Now, we're not going to release this technology to every Tom, Dick and Harry that wants to see it. We'll only release this technology and share this with mayors or investors that are really serious about getting involved with us. Otherwise, we'll spend the rest of our lives showing this technology off to everybody and not getting anywhere. So, we have brand new, leading edge, renewable, green technology that's ready to be used. Our generators are ready to go to manufacture. All we need is to find a mayor that wants to actually do this. The other attractive thing about this is that no funding is required from the mayor or the council because we're using the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation. All we need is the agreement and the willingness of the mayor and the council to proceed, and we can start. A power purchase agreement from the mayor, a generator is installed, and once the generator is paid off, it belongs to the community. These are the simple steps. So who pays for the generator? It's either an investor who invests or the community itself pays the generator off from the monthly income that we pay for electricity, for our electricity bills. So either the investor comes in, and here we're using the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation by either attracting greedy capitalist investors or investors who are conscious, who actually want to help the town, want to help the community. It'll make them feel good, and they know that they're actually creating a future society that'll provide security for themselves and their children. So this is going to still create a very interesting investment opportunity for conscious investors and conscious millionaires. And after they've made their money back and they've made a certain profit, they exit, at which point the generator belongs to the community. And all the income from that generator and the electricity that we bring in every month stays and belongs to the community. Or the community pays off the generator from the monthly payments that we normally make towards our monthly electricity bill. So no upfront money is required from the mayor or the council. The funding will be brought and delivered with the delivery of the generator. What happens here is we're providing electricity for the people, by the people. A community in control of their destiny, managed by a representative council for the people. The community can set its own electricity rates, and the income from the electricity remains in the community. This is the most important part of this implementation. The income from the electricity stays in the community. What does that mean? Well, that means that every month there are millions of funds available for that community. Funds that can be used for service delivery and community projects. Millions of funds, whether it's dollars or rands or yen, doesn't matter. You can work your own currency into this. Imagine a town of 10,000 people. Everybody pays $100 a month for electricity. On average, I'm using very simple examples here so everybody can follow the logic. A town of 10,000 people, everybody pays $100 for electricity. That is $1 million a month that now stays in that little town. $1 million a month that we can use for upgrades, improvements, projects to initiate new businesses for the community. This has never happened before. No small town has $1 million a month to spend on things that the people want to do. So what is the next step? The next step is very crucial. This is where it really starts to grow and build on this foundation of electricity. We identify the industrial potential of the town. We put together a project management team that does this on behalf of the community. We identify the empty farms, the factories, the resorts. We look at agriculture and education and sports and technology, engineering, everything that we could possibly look at. Identify all the potential that is lying idle that could be used for benefit and advantage of the community. And then we identify the people skills. And that is equally important because there are so many talented people in our towns and our communities that don't have work, or they've trained and they're good at something, but they're doing something else because they can't find a job in their area of expertise or training. So we find those people, whether we have rocket scientists or mathematicians or project managers or farmers that are not working, we find those people and we match them to the idle standing industrial opportunity, and we start a project with that specialized person. Over and above that, we do much more. We initiate many projects with these specialists that we find. And if we don't find specialists, but we identify certain opportunities, we then bring the specialists into our community. So these projects are not just sort of thrown together, let's grow some food, like many people have this idea, like a bunch of hippies getting together on a piece of land and growing some food. That is not what we're doing. It is completely juxtaposed to that kind of mentality. We're putting together the most meticulously planned businesses with the best project managers, with the best business plans, and the best managers that we find and we headhunt to put in place to manage that business on behalf of the people of the town, on behalf of that community. Why? Because the people and the community are co-owners of these projects. So we choose each project very specifically, and these projects managed by these very specialized people are co-owned by the community and the investor. And then the next thing the mayor should do is to go on the weekly media publicity broadcast that we do, and go out and invite all the inventors, the healers, the scientists, the engineers, the farmers, the teachers, the IT geeks, and anyone else who we believe or the mayor believes can add value and contribute to our community. And why can the mayor invite all these people? Because we have all this monthly income coming in from our electricity generator, coming in that we pay ourselves towards our electricity. So we have $1 million or more every month that we need to use for upgrading and uplifting and improving our communities and starting and initiating new projects. So we'll constantly have a flow of money with which to start something. So when we invite an engineer or an inventor or a healer to come in, we have the funds available to start that business and that community project. So when I say community project, I actually mean business that is owned by the community. So don't get confused by the two. Projects and businesses means the same in this context. So the mayor invites all the talent. And you can imagine there are so many frustrated people out there, healers, teachers, inventors, engineers, scientists that are sitting at home, not working. They're going to be drawn to this small town like bees to a honeypot or bees to a flower. And we're going to create many exciting projects that most of us can't imagine right now. So what kind of businesses and what kind of projects are we going to launch? This is really important. Once again, keep in mind that we want to create sustainable communities. We want to create communities that are fully sustained, sustain themselves, and then export the abundance that we create and manifest and generate and grow and invent. All the stuff that we do gets used by the community and then exported. So short-term projects to long-term projects. Projects with immediate turnover, for example, dairy, bakery, mill, cheese, eggs, wood, fish, art, design, architecture, etc. It's not just food and products, it's also services. And there will be many services that we can offer as community projects, owned by the community. There are many architects that can't work because they don't have a business or a job. Well, now we can set that up as a community. So these projects will be launched with specifically chosen experts, either from our community or from outside. And also, what becomes very simple and very easy to do is an ongoing maintenance of our town. The parks, the roads, the sports facilities, the care centers, the soup kitchens, the orphanages, all those are very easy to maintain because we have this constant flow of money. The key thing to recognize here that all the projects that we create, all the businesses that we start and initiate are integrated businesses. So as many of the components of that business help and support other businesses and other activities in our town. For example, the corn that we grow. We're not just going to sell corn in bulk to the big corn users out there. We're going to sell corn and we're going to use the corn ourselves. So whatever corn we grow, we then use in our own food production and making cornflakes and breakfast cereals and whatever else corn is used, tortillas and so forth. We're not stupid. We can set up as many businesses as our imagination allows us to because we have the funding to do that. So the corn that we grow gets used in all the things that we do and create that can support that corn. Wheat flour can be used in the bakery. Research and publishing can be used in our education and training facilities. Cotton, hemp, wool, bamboo, other materials can be used in our textiles manufacturing. Technology and other things surrounding technology can be used in computer manufacturing and other technological manufacturing activities. New materials can be used in engineering, and there are so many brilliant material scientists out there that have invented and created new materials, but they're not being used because they do not fit the economic model of the current socio-economic model. Well, we will put that to use in our small town. So new materials will be put to use where they're not being used today. In engineering, pharmaceutical, healthcare centers, healthcare products, new medication and so forth. Pharmaceutics is a huge component of a small town, and I'll talk a lot more about it. Forestry can be used in the building industry, and veterinary services can be used among the farmers and so forth. So imagine every business, every project that we set up will be used in something else that we do in our town, or the produce or the byproducts of that will be used in one of the other businesses. So when I call this an integrated community project system, it must be as integrated as we possibly can, and therein lies the absolute benefit. So how does it work? How do people participate and benefit from this? Very simple. Everybody is asked to contribute 3 hours a week, and everybody has 3 hours a week. And at this point, I must highlight that this is not compulsory. This is a voluntary program. Everyone has absolute choice whether they want to participate, whether they want to contribute 3 hours a week or not. And there are still people out there that ask questions like, well, how is it? It's not possible to get everybody to contribute 3 hours a week. Well, we don't expect that. We don't expect everyone to contribute. In fact, we expect maybe 10% of the community to contribute 3 hours a week. Can you see how powerful that is? And this is why the town has to be a certain size. So that if only 10% of the people contribute 3 hours a week, we still have a large enough community of volunteers to do all these things. All those people who participate get benefits from all the projects. Participants become co-owners of all the businesses and the projects that we set up. And the participants get 1/3 of all the project's profit. And this is very important again. The emphasis here that the participants who become the co-owners of the businesses stroke projects retain or get 1/3 of all the profits. I say all the profits, not just the business that they volunteered in or that they contributed their time in. So if you contribute 3 hours a week to the bakery for a few weeks, and then you go to contribute 3 hours a week in the techno plant or the dairy or whatever it is you're contributing 3 hours a week to, that doesn't mean that you only get produce or goods or services from that business. No, you're contributing as an individual to the collective benefit, the collective good and well-being of the entire community. And this is where the contributionism model really comes to life, where you see how powerful this is. By contributing just 3 hours a week to one of the projects, any other projects, and I'll talk about how that's going to be allocated, you then benefit from all the projects collectively, all the businesses, all the profits from all the businesses get divided equally to all the participants and the co-owners of the projects in our town. This is a huge paradigm shift in the way we think about earning money and capitalism, and how that changes completely. And this is very far removed from communism. If everybody thinks this is like a communist structure, then you don't know what communism is, and you need to go back to the books and learn about what communism is and was and never will be again. Because contributionism is like no ism we've ever had. What this does to us, where everybody contributes 3 hours a week, it provides us with thousands of volunteers every week. Thousands of working hours, thousands of labor hours a week. This is unimaginable. Think about a town of 10,000 people. If only 10% of the people participate, that still gives us 1,000 people every week contributing 3 hours. That gives us 3,000 hours of labor every week. We have to create a lot of projects to put those people to work. And now I start to see the power, the collective power of this. Everything becomes possible. Everything we imagine, any project we imagine, any business we think we should start becomes possible. And we no longer going to have to ask permission and ask bankers to loan us the money, because we can do it ourselves, either with our own income from our own electricity or investors that are attracted by this united labor force. The obvious projects that we're going to get involved in, the obvious projects that we're going to do to upgrade and uplift our community are the roads, the parks, the sports facilities, recycling, emergency services, elderly care, arts and culture, transport, security, and many other things that often are neglected or often don't have enough budget to do it as well as we'd like it to be done. And that will change very, very quickly. Very important thing to realize and recognize is that the volunteers are not the people that run and manage the businesses. I mentioned this already. The management teams of the businesses are very meticulously and strategically chosen and brought in to run and manage that business. The volunteers, the people of our town, the bulk labor force are exactly that. The bulk labor force for all the nitty-gritty, the labor, the holding, the catching, the fetching, the driving, the security, all the activities and the work that normally costs a lot of money, that businesses and companies spend millions of dollars on to pay that labor cost. Suddenly, we have thousands of labor hours and thousands of people a week contributing that labor for free, and that makes us very, very dangerous to every large corporation. And how do we turn our new businesses, our community projects, into profit-generating machines? Very simply. We calculate what we need, whether it's food, whether it's technology, whether it's services, whatever it is that we want to create for ourselves or are creating for ourselves. We calculate how much we need, and that's very simple. We have people that know how to calculate these things. And we produce at least 3 times as much as what we need. So think about this. We use 1/3 of what we need, and the other 2/3 are available for us to sell on the open market. We sell it to our neighboring communities, or we export it. We make it available to Walmart or anybody else that wants to buy our produce. But because we have such a cheap labor force, we can sell it cheaper than anybody else. How can we do this? Because of our free cooperative labor force. Think about a business that employs 10,000 people. Well, our small town has just become a fierce competitor to any corporation out there, any business out there that employs 10,000 people. Now, most of the people watching this video may not be aware of this, but any business that employs 5,000 people or more, and that is within the guidelines of our small towns, 5,000 people or more, any business that size generally turns over more than $1.5 billion per annum. Suddenly we've turned our town into a fierce competitor. We can do whatever we want. We have thousands of free labor hours every week, and we can become a fierce competitor to any corporation, whether it's IT, technology, farming, growing, building, whatever it is we choose to do. Suddenly we have a 10,000 strong labor force. It is unimaginable. And the returns from that should balance and mirror a business or a corporation that employs that amount of people. So at the back of your minds, imagine that our town, with all the businesses and projects that we launch, will turn over an equivalent of what that kind of size business in the normal capitalist model turns over. And that is anything from $1.5 billion and much more. Some businesses that employ 5,000 people turn over as much as $6 billion a year. So this is just an idea to give you what to look at, how productive and how cash rich and how successful the One Small Town model can become. So what happens to the profit share? How do we split the profits? always very simple. We need to keep things very, very simple in this model, and we do. 1/3 of the profits go to the investor, 1/3 go to the people from the community who contribute 3 hours per week, or an agreed number of hours. For now, we recommend 3 hours a week, but that can change and the community can create their own new guidelines. But right now, this whole model is based on 3 hours a week. And finally, the 1/3, the final third, goes to the municipality for maintenance, upgrades, and launching new projects. And these new projects will be launched in conjunction with the community forum, with the community structure that represents the people of the town, not just a blank sort of plan by the mayor or the council that do what they want to do. That's not the case, because that 1/3 actually belongs to the community. And this evolves into a very interesting opportunity, because this suddenly develops into what I call the investor appeal. The investor appeal for future investment rush. And I truly believe this is what's going to happen. The moment we launch the first One Small Town, after the first number of investors have invested into the cornerstone businesses and projects, and those cornerstone businesses and projects start to make profits for our community, together with the electricity and all the things that we do in conjunction, we will have enough cash flow and enough money to no longer need any more investors. What is that going to do? That is going to create an investment rush by conscious investors that have identified the One Small Town as a new investment opportunity. And I predict and I truly believe that the moment the first One Small Town has been launched and the first small group of investors have invested into the first One Small Town, there's going to be a huge global awakening. It's like the 100 monkey situation, where one investor will realize it, or a couple of investors realize it, and then suddenly all the investors around the world are going to realize this, and they're going to go nuts, because they realize that if they're not in on this new craze and this new rush, they're going to lose out, because there are only so many small towns in the world. And this, I believe, is going to cause the exploration, the exponential growth of the One Small Town strategy. Because once we have, as I mentioned, a few of the original cornerstone businesses and initiatives funded, we no longer need any more investors, because 2/3 of the money coming in belongs to the community. 2/3 of it belongs to the members of that community that contribute their 3 hours a week. Let's talk about the benefits to the people and benefits to the municipality. Very simple. Funding is always available for all imaginable community projects, free or cheap goods, produce and services, dramatically cheaper electricity for all the participants in the projects, that's initially, and eventually free electricity for participants once the generators have been paid off. No more investors are required for future projects. And this causes a rapid expansion of innovative spirit, of the human spirit, and also a very rapid rise of consciousness. And everything becomes possible. And once again, let me remind you, 1/3 of all the profits of all the projects go back to the people, to be distributed every month to all the people who participate. If you don't participate, you don't get any of the benefits. It's that simple. So the choice is yours. Either you contribute your 3 hours a week and get all these benefits, or you don't. You carry on your life, you take the blue pill, and you have no idea what's going on. Let's look at the benefits to the investors. Very, very attractive. First of all, no hostile competition. What do I mean by no hostile competition? Because in our community, we are creating a community of cooperation and collaboration, not competition, not dog eat dog. How many bakeries can we have? And they're all competing against each other. No. Our community is going to have one bakery, is going to have one dairy, is going to have, especially when it comes to food supply, we're going to have all the food that provides for our self-sustainable model will belong to the people of the town. So it's in essence one business. So we might have to find an investor to originally fund the dairy or fund the bakery. But while there might be several dairies across our town, if it's spread across a large area, or several bakeries, it's going to all belong to the community, and it's all actually one bakery. So it's one investor that'll benefit from investing into that one umbrella bakery. So can you see how the cornerstone investments are going to be crucial, and how the investors will be looking at coming in as quickly as possible to take that cornerstone investment, whether it's the bakery or whether it's the engineering company or whatever it is that we choose to set up in our community. And also the investors will come to our community and with ideas and their own ideas and innovation. So this is an open book, an open page where we can start writing in and filling in the chapters as they evolve and as they create themselves around us. They will write themselves for every town and every community. As the community grows, as the collaborative and cooperative spirit grows, as the investors come in, and sooner or later we'll just say, sorry, we don't need any more investors. And that's when we start needing the innovators, the inventors, the scientists, the healers, the engineers, and the teachers, and so forth. No more investors, because we got enough money to take those very talented people and create an industry and a business around them. So, no hostile competition. The whole community is on your side and cooperates for greatest success. A united free labor force from participating community members. You're not going to get that anywhere else as an investor. Cheap or free components and ingredients from all the integrated projects like maize or wheat or wood or milk, eggs, cotton, hemp, whatever it is that we grow, produce and create. Those are all the integrated ingredients and components that will go either free or very, very cheaply to all the other projects and the investors that invested in those projects. And all these very integrated components give our produce and our products an unmatched competitive price advantage. And that's where it really becomes very, very attractive. Because we can sell our produce and our products cheaper than anybody else. No one will be able to compete with us. And there are many other benefits like cheap electricity, clean water, healthcare, and so much more. And then also remember, the investor then retains 1/3 of all the profits after having all these benefits that they normally do not get in a normal capitalist-driven community or society. How do we attract existing businesses and existing farmers? Because they might feel threatened by this. They might go, oh my God, these guys are going to come into our town and they're going to push me out. No, that's not the case at all. Remember right up front I said the One Small Town strategy is a completely inclusive. It includes and invites and embraces everyone who wants to participate. And therein is the buzzword, who wants to participate. There might be some businesses that might not want to participate. And generally, a lot of the businesses, there are hundreds of small businesses in our towns, the hairdressers and the mom and pop stores and so forth. They're not going to be affected by this at all. We're talking about big cornerstone businesses and industry, whether it's farming, engineering and so forth. But if there already is a farm, which many small towns have farms, or an engineering shop, or a bakery, which there may be, or a dairy, which there probably is, or a carpentry shop, or a wood factory, those people might feel threatened that we're going to come and drive them and put them out of business. Not at all. In fact, we do the opposite. This is how we invite the existing businesses and industry to participate. So, first of all, we're not going to just take their business over. We're going to invite them to say, turn your business or your farm or your factory into a community business, a community project, a community co-owned business. And obviously the question is, well, what's in it for me? And the answer is, well, what's in it for you is the following. First of all, we pay you for your business. We're going to pay you a handsome sum for your business. So you're going to make a profit from selling your business to us. Secondly, you're going to carry on managing the business, whether it's a farm or anything else. You're going to get free or cheap electricity, free or cheap components, as we've mentioned before, free labor force, except obviously the management team, the specialized roles that need to be played in that or performed in that business, all the other labor, whether it's the receptionist, whether it's the security, whether it's the driving, all of that additional labor is for free. That's part of the community project and the contribution of the rest of the people in the community. Free sales and marketing, free IT, free distribution, and many more things that we can't even think of right now. And for all of this, You need to just manage the business as you did before, except now you're a 1/3 owner of that business after having made a very healthy profit, and you're still going to retain 1/3 profit of that every month. So in essence, what we do to any business owner or farmer will enrich them, I guess is the right word, by buying the business from them and then using their skills to carry on running that business. If they don't want to do that, if they say, well, that's great, I just want to sell the business to you and then I'm out of here, I'm going to live on an island, that's their choice. Then all we do is we bring in other experts and we pay them a salary to run that business. That's how simple things are. We never exclude anyone. Everyone will benefit from it. All the existing businesses will actually benefit much more under this system than the current system in which they struggle to survive, possibly against competition, possibly against fierce competition from companies and businesses from outside. Now suddenly they're going to have a business, whether it's a carpentry shop or a dairy or a bakery, whatever it may be, or a farm. They're going to have a business that's supported by 10,000 people or whatever the number of people in our community is. Everybody wants that business to succeed. Everybody gives whatever they can, contributes whatever they can to make that business a success. Why? Because they're co-owners of that business. So whatever benefits any individual can contribute, they will, because they want that business to succeed. And this is why there is no hostile competition. And the investors will know this very, very quickly. And this is why I foresee a stampede and a rush on the whole one small town strategy by conscious investors. And many people ask, well, how do we get from here to there? This is just, it sounds fantastic, but how are we going to do this? We're going to just have to give something up and go into that? No, not at all. This is a very smooth transition phase. Nobody ever has to leave their job. You don't have to leave your job. You can just contribute 3 hours a week. And for simply contributing 3 hours a week, keep your job, whether you work in a bank or whether you're a worker on a farm or whether you're a truck driver or whatever it is you do, you can keep your job. And many people work outside of town as well. A lot of small towns now actually are labor forces for the large industries and the mines and so forth around them. So a lot of the people in the town can keep the job wherever they are without the fear of not benefiting from these community projects. So the transition phase is very, very simple. No one has to leave their job. No one has to commit to anything and jump ship from one thing to another. It's a very smooth transition. Why? Because everybody has got 3 hours a week. All you got to do is find 3 hours a week to contribute, and you'll be allocated by a very sophisticated computer system that identifies your talents and your skills to put you in a situation where you can actually help and benefit that situation. We're not going to match people up with in areas that they don't have talents or aptitude for. We are smarter than that, right? Keep in mind, once again, we're going to do this very meticulously, very calculatingly, with the tools and technology, the best tools and technology at our disposal to put people into situations where they benefit best, they can use their skills the best, and the entire community benefits best from that as well. And that leads to so many other benefits later down the road. So nobody has to jump ship. What happens to the fence sitters? This is frequently asked questions. Not everybody's going to want to participate, and you're quite right, especially in the beginning. Let's say 10% of our community participates and the other 90% just goes, I don't know, this sounds a bit fishy to me. I want to see how this works out. This sounds like a communist plot, because they don't know what communism is, and they want to just sit on the fence. And often this might be people with egos and arrogance and big houses and fancy cars that don't want to stoop down that low to come and contribute 3 hours a week to some community project. So in essence, it'll be the 90% of the people that don't participate that help fund many of the projects that we start. Isn't that interesting? How we use the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation, even on that little level. But think about how long these people sit on the fence. Suddenly we have all this money coming in every month from our electricity generator. We start bringing in money from the businesses, especially food, and businesses that have got a quick turnaround. and we start distributing money and benefits, probably benefits more than money. Start distributing food, people start getting huge discounts on food and on services and on technology, whether we start producing computers in our town and people have access to very, very cheap computers or whatever it is. And all these fence sitters suddenly see all their friends that are getting all these benefits and huge discounts, virtually getting things virtually for free, and discount on electricity, discount on this, discount on that, and they're still paying full price for everything. How long do you think they're going to sit on the fence? Not very long. And especially when they realize that when the people contribute their 3 hours a week, they're also meeting others. They're having a great time, and they're also learning new skills. And that's really what's going to happen. This is a spectacular new structure, a new system from which the benefits are only going to become evident once we immerse ourselves in this much deeper. So all of this is possible because we create much more than 3 times we need. Think about this. People that, for example, work in technology, people that like horses, people that like carpentry. If you like horses, I'm going to use horses as an example. Horsey people are crazy. Do you think that 3 hours a week to go and help at the stables and work at the stables to work with the horses is going to be enough for people that love horses and would love to be close to horses? Of course not. Do you think that working 3 hours a week in a tech lab for a techno nut, for a techno geek that wants to work in a techno lab or technological environment, do you think 3 hours a week is going to be enough for them? Of course not. Do you think that 3 hours a week for somebody that loves to work with wood or carpentry is going to be enough? Of course not. So what's going to happen is that people will gravitate towards these different areas, and they'll put their hands up to work rather with the horses or in the carpentry shop or in the tech shop, more so than in the other community projects. And they're going to find and learn new skills. So while we're doing this 3 hours a week, we're also providing people with the opportunity to find their passion, to discover their true talents. Suddenly everything becomes a community project. Whether it's horse breeding or sculpting studio or art supplies or beekeeping or recycling or growing herbs, whatever you feel that you have an aptitude for and you want to do, and you present a good business plan, the community and the money that we have will be able to set up that business and make it a sustainable community project that actually benefits the entire community. And this is where I'd like to introduce everybody to a very confusing philosophy called the minority rule principle. Because we live in a world where capitalism and democracy and majority rule pretty much drives our world. It creates division. It puts this party against that party. Majority rule, right? We believe that we take a vote and the majority vote have their way. Well, unfortunately, that is not a solution. It is actually just a recipe for more conflict, more division, more separation, more argument, and more bloodshed. What this one small town scenario does, it provides the community with a completely different approach, and I call it the minority rule principle. And it doesn't mean that one person is going to tell everybody else what to do, or a small group of people is going to control the rest of the community. No, not at all. What this really means is that if we truly look at our communities are driven by minorities. Whether it's a small group that looks after the bees, or the IT geeks, or people that want to clean up the environment, or purify the water, or save the butterflies, or work with the stray animals, or whatever it is. There are all these minority groups, people that are passionate and love to do certain things, and they never have enough money, they never have enough technology or support. Well, these are going to be the groups that get all the support they need from the community, from the funds that are available to support all these minority groups, so they've got the best possible equipment, best possible facilities, best possible research, and best possible ability to provide the services and do what they do, because it will be a benefit to the community. So in essence, Our community is going to be a community driven by well-supported, well-motivated, well-funded, well-stocked, well-supplied minority groups that collectively provide very, very critical services to our entire community. And this is why I call it the minority rule principle. It is a completely different way of thinking about our society and the structure, because the money no longer matters. Keep in mind, the reason all of this changes, because in majority-driven systems, it's always about the money. They want to control the money and where they want to allocate the money. In this case, the money is allocated to everybody. Wherever we need money, we allocate that money to. The minority rule principle is also what I call a people-first principle. Whatever people need, it's not driven by technology and then people follow. It's driven by the needs of people. What do we need to make our lives as comfortable and as beautiful as possible? Let's develop the technology and the systems to make our lives as easy and as beautiful as possible. Not let's develop the technology and see how we can use that technology for the people. No, that's the wrong way around. That's ass about face. People need to drive this. So the minority rule principle is a people-driven philosophy. People first, and whatever the people need gets invented, created, manufactured, and implemented. So all the people that want to look after the bees, or clean the water, or recycling, or care for the elderly, or care for animals, or air pollution, the environment, wild animals, butterflies, news reporting, anything that people want to do, they'll be supported and given the tools and the technology to do that. That is just such a beautiful, smooth system that will inspire many, many people to great things and to really look deeply into their own abilities and their own God-given talents, so they can bring that out and start using that, not only for their own satisfaction, but for the benefit of all those around them. So let's look at some of the financials in this. How much money can one small town generate? Well, let's look at a very basic, simple plan. 100 businesses, we're going to start 100 businesses, and each business generates on average $100,000 per month. Once again, you can convert this to whatever currency you work in, $100,000 per month. That gives us $10 million per month turnover or income for our little town. $10 million a month income. Now, very few small towns make that kind of money. And the profits from that will be very, very substantial. Much more profits than the average business, because of the cooperative labor force, the components, the ingredients that we create and manufacture ourselves. But what I can tell you is that some of these businesses will be much bigger than that. Keep in mind what we discussed earlier. Any company, any corporation that have in excess of 5,000 workers, 5,000 people working for them, the average income of those size businesses is well in excess of $1 billion per annum. $1 billion per annum. So if we have a town of 10,000 people and 30,000 hours of labor a week, we can start thinking that whatever businesses we set up and manage and run successfully will put us in line with that size business. So to try and imagine how much money our community and our small town can generate is really a futile exercise, because that all depends on how successfully we can implement some cornerstone businesses and cornerstone projects, from the food growing to the large industry, technology, healthcare, etc. There's some examples of potential income that I'd like to share with you, and those examples are in some of the industries that make the largest profits, and that's healthcare, technology, pharmaceutics. When I say healthcare, I mean hospitals and health centers. Technology, obviously, computer, IT, cell phone, telecommunication, all that kind of stuff. $1 trillion industries. And pharmaceutics, I need to say no more about that. It extends from that into consumables like shampoo and toothpaste and soaps that we consume in large quantities every month. All of these companies are very easy to set up. It's very easy to set up a pharmaceutical company. I know, I worked in manufacturing pharmaceutics, where we manufactured pills and capsules and ointments and lotions and goggles and cough syrups and anything you can imagine. It's not rocket science to set up a pharmaceutics manufacturing plant. It's very, very easy. The profits from such a business are unimaginable until we insert what it is that we're going to manufacture. And that changes everything. So just our pharmaceutics plant that manufactures not just drugs or antibiotics and new medicine and cures for other diseases that have not been released yet, but also shampoos and toothpaste and so forth, the profits from that can be unimaginable to us right now. Then obviously the healthcare. Let's have a look at how much money do you think hospitals make? Hospitals make sickening amounts of money. Well, our hospitals are probably going to have to be called something else, because hospitals by nature come with all kinds of legislation and all kinds of rules and regulations. So we might call our hospital a health and wellness center. But everybody will know that when you go in there for health and wellness, you will come out clean of all disease. Why can I say that? Because we know that we can cure all disease. Many people in the know are already very well aware that cures for all diseases have been discovered. We can cure pretty much any kind of cancer. We can cure pretty much any kind of disease. We know how to use very advanced genetic technology. We know how to use sound and resonance and frequency healing. We know all these things. We're not stupid. And there are many brilliant minds out there that have been doing this very, very quietly. So when we start our health and wellness center and we bring in all this new, very advanced technology that many people are probably not even aware of, and people around the world start to realize that if you have cancer and you check yourself into this health and wellness center in this small town, you will come out a month later with no cancer. Or you might come out 2 days later free of cancer. So when I say and pose the question, how much money will our health and wellness center make? Well, that's an open-ended question. The answer is, how many people are we prepared to treat in our health and wellness center every month? And open it up to the world. Keep in mind, those people who come from around the world, they will have to pay for those treatments. That is our service to the outside world, while the people in our community, in our town, get all that treatment, all that service for free, for simply contributing 3 hours a week to the community projects. That's how powerful this one small town strategy really is. How many supercomputers can we build? Can we manufacture every month? How many supercomputers can we sell? It's an open-ended question. First of all, can we build supercomputers? Yes. How long will it take to build a supercomputer? That is probably a nonsensical idea, because the IT geeks out there that will be invited to our town, when the mayor invites them, will come running knowing that they can build a supercomputer. And I've spoken to many IT people about this many times, and they always laugh. They say, well, the supercomputer has already been created and invented, but the IT industry will never release it because it'll destroy and collapse their industry. So we're going to be building supercomputers in our small towns, because we don't care about collapsing that industry. We want to build things that last forever, things that provide remedies and solutions, things that provide cures, not things that have redundance built into them and break after a certain period of time so that you have to replace it or buy a new one. This is the kind of world that we're creating. One small town will change the world. So how many supercomputers can we sell every month? As many as we can build. What is the ultimate outcome for the one small town? People receive more money from the projects than they receive from their full-time jobs. And what's going to happen then? Well, how long will it take for that to happen? First of all, we don't know. But as the businesses grow and as the businesses start to multiply and the profits come in, and we start distributing more and more money to the people every month from the profits of the businesses, people start receiving more and more money every month, and at some point the money that they get from their projects will equal or get more than the money they get from their job. But keep in mind, the money they get from their projects is from simply contributing 3 hours a week. 3 hours a week to the projects, from which gives them all this return, as opposed to working like a slave 8 hours a day or longer to just get your monthly or weekly wage. So what is it you're going to choose? Over and above this, most of the stuff in our community is free. Food and services and some technology and so much more. So you'll be spending less and less money every month on survival. So your monthly survival costs and expenses are going to be probably 10%, if not less, than what you're currently spending working like a slave, driving back and fro, spending much of your life being a slave for some corporation somewhere. So suddenly you start earning all this money from the businesses and projects that we've initiated in our town by simply contributing 3 hours a week. 3 hours a week for all this money that comes in, as opposed to 10 hours a day, 10 hours a day for working like a slave. So what are you going to choose? Especially when what you're getting in matches the amount of money that you're getting in from your daily job, your slave job. I don't think it takes rocket science to figure out what people are going to do. People are going to leave their jobs, and people are going to start working more and more on themselves. And it's at this moment when people start leaving their jobs and suddenly having all this time on their hand and having all this extra money come in, able to follow their passion and spend time on things they like to do. That's when people realize that we don't need money. And yet, they have more money than they've ever had before. And that's when people realize that money does nothing. People do everything. We plant the seeds. We grow the food. We build the bridges. We do the engineering, magnificent engineering structures. We build the technology and the rockets and the aeroplanes. And we have the ability for compassion and friendship and love. Money cannot do that. So now that people have left their jobs, they're earning all this money every month because our businesses are becoming more and more successful. People have all this time on their hands. What are you going to do with all the time? There are 168 hours in a week. You're going to contribute 3 hours a week to one of the projects and get all these benefits, all these incredible benefits that nobody can imagine. What are you going to do with the extra 165 hours a week? You're going to follow your passion. Express yourself. Use your talents. Do things you've always wanted to do. And this is where we see the overnight explosion of the human creative spirit and that incredible growth that all of us have imagined. And this is where we see very clearly how one small town and contributionism is a very simple socio-economic system in which we are moving away from a money-driven society to a society driven by people, their talents and their passions for life, where everyone contributes their natural talents or acquired skills for the greater benefit of all in their community. Contributionism. Everything is possible, achievable, fixable, growable, doable, reachable, inventable, creatable, renewable, recyclable. A true utopian world where we can live out our passions and our talents for the benefit of ourselves, our loved ones, and our entire community. The other thing that will happen is we'll realize that our needs for materials will change. Let's ask ourselves, what materials do we need? Well, we need iron and steel, gold, copper, chrome, aluminium, coal, and many other materials and metals and things that we mine out of the ground. All the horrible mining and industry activities are destroying our world. Well, that's going to change. We will enter the last wave of the Industrial Revolution, the industry, manufacturing, mining, and we're going to enter a whole new era, a humanitarian era of new technology, and a humanitarian era of higher consciousness, a consciousness revolution where everything is possible. No more desecrating our planet, no more ripping out the guts of our Mother Earth, no more pollution that is echoed by a rapid cleanup by environmental scientists, and we create our own paradise, a beautiful world that we've all dreamed of most of our lives. And it'll be the first small town that really creates the domino effect. That first small town and the first mayor that chooses to take this route. And all the other small towns will follow. Why? Because the people in the other small towns will see the success of this little town. Imagine the neighboring towns of a town that takes on this philosophy. and the success and the global media that an attraction that is going to give the small town. How are the people of the small towns, the neighboring towns, going to feel? What are they going to say to their mayor of their small town? They're going to say, Mr. Mayor, if you don't implement what those guys over there have done, we're going to vote you out of office. So I believe that once the first small town goes, it will literally create a domino effect. It'll be driven by the people and also the mayors to save their bacon, to realize that if I don't do this, I'll be voted out of office. So the one small town model is so fully inclusive of everyone. It doesn't even discriminate against possibly hostile mayors that don't want to do this. It even includes those hostile mayors. It includes everybody. It includes the investors, the existing businesses. It provides the best possible scenario for everyone involved. It is a self-correcting system on every possible level. This philosophy, the one small town, will spread from small town to town. Mayors all over the world will see it. It'll literally spread across borders, across countries, across continents. I truly believe it'll become unstoppable. It'll be the #1 attraction for conscious investors, the #1 hot investment opportunity. So we will truly be using all the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation. For the people that participate in these small towns, very quickly to realize that once we've reached this incredible global community of towns that are self-sustainable, that are sharing the exports, that no longer need the money because we're just stockpiling money, we don't need to use it. Once we get to that stage, everybody will realize that we don't need money because money does nothing. People do everything. And we'll enter the true new age of humanity, the new age of higher consciousness, where we allow and set everybody, every living, breathing soul, we set them free to express their God-given talents, their talents with which they're born, which have been suppressed and oppressed from virtually the first breath we take as babies born into this insane world. So I'd like to welcome you to the philosophy of one small town can change the world. I hope it's made sense to you, and realize that it's any town, anywhere. If you know a mayor anywhere, if you are the mayor of a small town, contact me. We can start this process immediately. One small town can change the world. One small town will change the world. Why not yours? Be the seed of consciousness and instigate this in your community. Until later, this is Michael Tellinger. See me on the Q&A pages and the Q&A videos that will follow this to answer all the little questions and the problems that people might have. Please place your question underneath here, and I will answer them in short videos to show you how simple the answers truly are. But by now, I hope you can answer many of the questions yourself. Until later, this is Michael Tellinger. Bye for now.